Hello, hello, everyone. It is Jessica from Double the Stitches here, and I am so excited to have a very, very special guest joining me today. You may have seen me mentioning an upcoming event that I'm honored to be a speaker for, the Fearless Knitter Summit, and I am here with the host, the mastermind behind this whole event, Johnny Vasquez from the Yarnist. And I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit, share a little bit about who he is, what he does at the Yarnist, and then we'll talk more about the summit. I can't wait to share this with you all.
Thanks, Jessica. So for people who don't know me, my name is Johnny. Obviously, you might recognize my voice or my hands from my New Stitch Day videos. I started knitting way back in 2010 when I got inspired to knit my own sweater. I wanted to be more connected with my clothing, and so I was like, that would probably be like a good thing to make. So I got myself a Teach Yourself to Knit kit and a couple of skeins of Simply Soft at Walmart and just, went to it. What happened is I was following this blog called New Dress a Day. And so this girl sort of like during the economic crisis decided that she was going to start making a new dress every single day or a new sort of like garment every single day from fabric that she bought from the dollar bin at the thrift store. So she would buy these like giant muumuus and cut them up and make these cute little outfits. And I was like, what a fun project to kind of like hone your skills and make as kind of like a goal blog. And then I was in Chicago at a yarn store that I don't think is there anymore. And there was an on-duty police officer. So she was supposed to be, roaming the streets, but she was sitting in the yarn store and we were sitting there chatting and there's a perpetual knitting calendar. And she was like, what would be really interesting is if you just like made one of these every day and then you sort of like sewed it all up into a blanket. And I was like, that is interesting. And then for Christmas that year, I got a Stitch dictionary from my mother-in-law at the time. And so I sort of connected the dots between all of those things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to improve my own knitting and sort of take people along the journey with me and make some videos, because when I was trying to learn to knit way back 6 months ago, I was having trouble finding videos at that time. And I was like, I could do a better job with my iPhone. So that's exactly what I did. I took my iPhone, I took some lights. I think I just used the lamp at the hotel that we were at and a bed sheet and just taught people how to do like a slip knot. I think was the first video. It took me 8 hours to edit it. And and we didn't even have phone like tripod mounts at the time. Like I ended up making one out of like styrofoam or something in order to like mount my phone onto so that I could film. And that's how I made my first videos. And so I started the website New Stitch a Day in January 2011. And then I made about 1,000 tutorials. And then I took a break from doing that. And about 3 years ago, well, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had started a crowdfunding campaign to launch a new magazine. The goal was to turn the Yarnist into a print magazine because so many were kind of closing. And I thought that like there's still value there if you have the right business model. But the pandemic had other plans. So that sort of like tanked those goals because by the time we got out of it, the price of printing something like that it just didn't make sense anymore. And so we pivoted to become the daily newsletter. So now I write the Yarnist, which is a daily knitting newsletter. And our goal there is to help people become more fearless knitters by shining a light on the dark corners of the knitting world so that you can see more clearly and understand better so you fear your knitting less.
I love that. So what does fearless knitting mean to you? Because I think a lot of people have a little slight variations of, of what that means to them. So that's one of your big things is fearless knitting. And so how do you define
Yeah.
that?
Well, a lot of people say, that they want people to be confident knitters or adventurous knitters. And I think those are great approaches. And they all kind of mean similar things. I felt that fearless was an easier thing to identify, right? Or let's say like a goal to aspire to.
Mhm.
Uh, and so it's not that you're just not worried about the consequences of what you're doing, but it's more that you have the peace of mind that even if things go wrong, it's just a learning opportunity and you're only going to continue to get better as you go. So that's kind of like the biggest thing. I wrote an article about this when you sign up for our newsletter. It's like one of the first emails that we send you. And it's this parable about a person gets steals from the queen, right? And she
Mm.
gets brought into the courtroom of the palace, the throne room of the palace, and the queen's going to cast judgment on her. She's like, "Hey, look, like you can't steal from me. That's against the rules. So I'm going to give you a choice. You can drink what's in this cup, and you're going to die. So, but it's going to be a nice, peaceful death, and you're not going to feel any pain. Or you can go walk through that curtain there, and you're going to suffer a lot, and you're also going to die. But you know, the choice is yours, basically. Which way do you want to die?" And before she even finishes, the person grabs the cup and starts drinking it down, and it's just like, I'll take the painless route, right?
Mhm.
And the woman, she says, okay, like, before I fall asleep, what was behind the curtain? And she said, "It's your freedom.
Hmm.
Like, you're gonna, like, you have to go live life, you know, and life is going to be painful and it's going to be difficult and it's going to be hard and you're going to die anyways. But we're so afraid of what's on the other side of the curtain that we would rather just like kill ourselves, you know, than deal with that uncertainty." And so I said that fear is kind of that like small voice in your head that's saying that, like, oh, that pattern is too difficult for you.
Mm.
You know, if you try that, you're going to mess up. And if you mess it up, everybody's going to laugh and you're not good enough. And the fearless knitter answers the voice back and says, "But I can try." And I think that that's sort of like the bigger like idea behind it, is that it doesn't matter if you fail or if you could fail. The fearless knitter says, "I'm going to try anyway."
Because you'll never know what you could possibly do if you never try. If you only ever knit garter stitch washcloths or stockinette sweaters, you'll never know what is possible, if you push yourselves. And that's one of the things that I love about knitting and being adventurous and being curious is that it's just yarn, right? And if you mess it up, you
Right. We're
take it
not
out
curing
and try
cancer.
again. It's only yarn. It's yarn and it's time, but it's time spent doing something that you enjoy, something that you love. And so what if your first attempt at brioche is horrible? So what if you drop a million stitches trying to learn to knit lace? So what if your cables are wonky and zig the wrong way? Um, you can take them out. You can, put a lifeline in if your work is good to a certain point, and then give it a try. What is the worst thing that could happen from trying a new stitch?
And it's easy to say that, but in the moment,
Yeah.
right, our minds don't differentiate between something that is a real threat or something that's a perceived threat. And so, yeah, like it's not a spider that could bite you with a deadly venomous, you know, bite. But if your sort of threat, defense mechanisms are triggered, like you still feel those same feelings. And
Mhm.
so, um, there's plenty of people who email me that are like, knitting's not scary. And I'm like, it's not scary for you. And that's great. But this didn't come out of anywhere. Like, this is a decade of people emailing me saying, like, "I'm so afraid, I'm so worried, I'm so," like that was the common theme of people sending in support requests, that they were scared to do this thing. And either, the tutorial helped them get over their fear, or they want to know how they can address that. So, we are finishing up a sock challenge right now, a 6 week sock challenge. And a bunch of people have been trying new stuff that they've never done before. And they've had to rip out a toe 6 times. And they're like, I had to put it in timeout, and it was really aggravating. And they get super emotional. And it's easy from the outside to be like, it's just a sock. But to them in that moment, it's a really big challenge that they're trying to surmount. And that's a real feeling.
Is there a moment when fear held you back from knitting something, or have you always been fearless in your approach to knitting?
I don't think that I wouldn't say fear, but there are definitely things that I'm kind of like, oh, well, yeah, sure. Like I'm afraid of pissing off Alice Starmore by trying to use other yarn than what she's like recommended for her patterns. But beyond that,
And she does beautiful Fair Isle color work,
yeah, not just Fair Isle, but also like Intarsia and stuff. Her patterns are extremely complex and very like detailed and stuff. But she kind of has a reputation for being a little challenging at times. But I've never met her, so no hate to you, Alice. Like we love your work. It's it's beautiful and inspiring. So, and that was a joke. So, but as far as it's more a matter of like I'm not sure that I have the patience to work through like a K facet sweater that's got 12 different kinds of yarn in every row. Like that's just not how I want to spend that's not a challenge that inspires me. Let's say.
Mhm.
So more power to you if you can do it. But I'm the same way with like lace and stuff. I'm just like, this is too fiddly. Like I have no need to make a wedding pie shawl. That's just not the kind of stuff that I like to make.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about knitting, though, is that there are so many types of techniques and types of projects to make, that there's something really for everyone. And you don't ever have to knit lace if that's not your thing. There's plenty of other beautiful techniques and types of things to knit. And some people love the little fiddly stuff, the lace weight yarn on sock, US 0 or 1 needles, and that's their thing, and that's what brings them joy. And some people love intricate cables, some people just love relaxing knitting where it's stockinette or garter or whatever. And there's no shade, there's nothing wrong with wherever you find your joy, and wherever you find that knitting brings you, whether it brings you comfort, whether it brings you calm, whether it brings you something to be proud of that you created. And I know that I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but I know you have developed a whole different system of how we should consider our skills. That, like, that beginning, intermediate, advanced knitter doesn't really encompass what the knitting journey really is. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. I
And
kind
then
of
we'll
call
talk
it the
more about
10
the
level.
site.
I kind of call it the 10 levels of knitting, sort of. I don't have a great name for it right now, but the idea is that the current system, like you mentioned, there isn't really a system. There's just sort of these like generic, you know, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then some people include like an advanced beginner, which I consider like a swear word, and something in between like intermediate and advanced. And even that I feel like is just not quite nuanced enough. So there's plenty of knitting that's not linear, as far as, acquiring skills, but you can take a linear path if you choose to level up your skills. So I spent a lot of time sort of outlining all of the different unique knitting techniques and skills that I could think of. And, I spent a ton of time researching this. And so I think I distilled it to something like between like 60 and 80. I don't remember exactly how many they were. And it's not easy to define like what those things are. And then I started to kind of like package them up into like, where do those skills stack? So if it's like, okay, if you learned how to do a knit stitch, right, then you also know how to do a purl stitch because it's just a reverse purl stitch, right? And then we talk about slip stitches because that's not knitting a stitch, and then you have yarn overs, which is skipping a stitch, having no stitch, right? And then cables is swapping stitches. So sort of like trying to introduce concepts that then can layer on top of each other. And I wanted to detach what we consider to be difficult from the individual skills, because difficulty is really not the right word for something. It's much more about the complexity of the project. So, a garter stitch headband is not complex at all. So that's a great beginner project
Mhm.
because you're just focusing on a couple of core skills. Whereas if you're knitting an Alice Starmore sweater, right, now you're dealing with bust dart shaping, finishing techniques that include making collars, button bands, pocket inserts, and you're doing all over intarsia color work with multiple different colors at the same time. That's an incredibly complex piece of knitting to make. But it's when you break it down to the individual skills, you can sort of master each one of those on their own level. And then I think a good way and this ties back into sort of the whole fearless thing. Part of a better illustration. So Tom Cruise is known for doing these like intense stunts, right?
Mhm.
In his movies, where he's like hanging off the side of a plane or having a fight on top of a biplane or jumping off of a cliff with a motorcycle, right? And his mantra is to be competent, right? Like, and if you're competent, then you don't have to, like, everything else sort of takes care of itself. He has a better way of saying it. I can't remember. But the reason why it's not scary for him, or less scary for him, let's say, is because he's done it 100 times.
Hmm.
There was a video that went around where someone was challenging him to a pull-up contest. And it was Guy Ritchie. If you know, Guy Ritchie is like
Mhm.
a film director.
Madonna, was he was married to Madonna or something with Madonna?
Yeah, I think so. And most people
Okay.
would probably have seen Aladdin, which the newer Aladdin with Will Smith. He directed that, but he's also known for a bunch of like sort of like British gangster movies. So Guy Ritchie's trying to challenge Tom Cruise to a pull-up contest, and they're like, "Well, how many pull-ups can Tom Cruise do?" And he's like, "I can do a lot of pull-ups." And they're like, "Well, can you do like 10?" And he's like, "I can do 10." And he's like, "Well, can you do 20?" He's like, "I could do 20." And then like the confidence on Guy Ritchie starts to like go away. And eventually, it turned out that Tom Cruise could do like 70 plus pull-ups, which is
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
Like, but the reason why he could do that is because he trained to be able to hang off the side of the Burj Khalifa so that he wouldn't have to come inside to go to the bathroom or anything like that, or to rest, so that they could just keep filming and they wouldn't lose time resetting everything in between shots. So that's easier for him because he's put in the work and the effort. And just like it's easier for me to sit down and just knit a stitch out of a swatch book that I've never seen before because I've done it 1,000 times. That's sort of like another aspect of becoming fearless, right? You're not intimidated by those things because you've done it enough, or you've done the base level work to be able to approach those things. And so when you have the skills like doing a bunch of intarsia or making a bunch of sweaters or doing some, detailed finishing work, then approaching an Alice Starmore sweater becomes a lot less intimidating, even though it's really complex.
I love
See, I
that.
brought it all around. Like,
Yeah. Now we're back to fearless knitting, right? So let's talk about the Fearless Knitter Summit. And I have the sign up page brought up on my screen. Hopefully, we'll see. Yes. So we can kind of talk people through that a little bit. Yes, we've got people signing up for it constantly. It starts on Thursday, which is August 21st. Yes, it's right there on my screen. Trying to remember the date, and it's right there in front of me. So tell us a little bit about what the Fearless Knitter Summit is all about.
Yeah. So like I was mentioning earlier, part of the fear that we have is from the unknown. And so I wanted to create an event where we could shine a light on what's possible. And because you're sort of exposed to new ideas or new ways of explaining something, or even stuff that you maybe have never even considered trying before, then your world expands and it becomes less scary. Right. And so if you've never done brioche before, then or two color brioche has been super intimidating, then you check out Jessica's session on two color brioche. And she's going to show you that, like, sure, it's not like the simplest technique, but when you do it like this, it's a lot less scary. And then, things like the importance of your yarn choice and when you're making a pattern, right, is another thing that people always kind of like get their mind blown. So Ann Hanson's and Justine Lee are both doing sessions that are approaching that topic from different angles. Ann's talking a little bit more from the perspective of the qualities of yarn and stuff, and how to think in a smarter way about utilizing your yarn. And then Justine is an expert on rare British wool. So she's going to be sort of going more deeper onto the topic of, like, okay, how do you get outside of the merino box, and incorporate other things into your knitting. Teaching a session on uh, swatching, and I'm a big advocate of using a swatch to learn about your yarn, and not just, and your pattern and your stitch pattern and all that kind of stuff, and not just to get gauge. And so those are all concepts that I think are really important to think about as a knitter, that you don't always just learn naturally in the process of acquiring new skills. And then we have a framework as well for the different days of the event. So the first day is all about foundational techniques. Like I said, things about yarn, swatching, learning to read between the lines, learning how to read your knits. Chandy Agee, she's going to be talking about getting more joy out of your knitting, and just, in how to enjoy the knitting process more. The second day is about knitting shapes. So, shawls, sweaters, hats. Woolly Wormhead's going to be doing a cool session on knitting hats. And we have one other.
Shawl
Oh,
shape, I
socks.
think.
Kate Atherley is going to be teaching on socks. So, and that's because, the shape of something is sort of an independent idea from the colors and the textures that you can apply to it. So that's sort of like the next step, right? You figure out, like, your base level things, your swatching and your
Mhm.
yarn. The next step is sort of like, what's the form that you're going to be making? And then the next step after that is the techniques that you apply to it, the cables, the lace, the brioche, the mosaic, the stranded colorwork. Those are all topics that we're covering on day 3. And then finally, we have our last steps. So finishing and blocking. Krista Ann's going to be talking about Hollywood level finishing techniques, because she is a production knitter for the TV industry. And then Hortense is going to be doing a whole session on different ways to block your knits. So we kind of covered, like, the whole life cycle of the knitting process, and
Mhm.
help empower you to think beyond just patterns. Like, how can you start to incorporate some of these ideas to make your own versions of those things, or own customizations.
I love that. And I'll share, so Johnny has been working very hard behind the scenes, and Hortense has been his partner in making all of this magic happen, but he's been very quiet about himself being part of it. And so in the as speakers, we get emails from um suggested, things to sit to share with our audience about the event. And so he's not mentioned in these emails, I have to tell you. And so as speakers, we edit them and make them sound more like us, and add, little stories or tidbits or things about our presentation, and share, other presentations that we're excited about. And I sent out an email. I'm sharing this. I sent out an email over the weekend that didn't mention Johnny at all. And I actually got an email back from one of the people in my audience that said, "How come you didn't mention Johnny at all? You should definitely mention him." And I'm paraphrasing here, but because he people will attend his events because he knows what he's doing, and he knows that he and we know that he brings together speakers that are worth our time. And so we know that when he creates an event, it's worth our time and our energy and our money. So I wanted to share that with you all. And I echo that 100%. And it was not intentional to leave you out of that email. I think you said Hortense had to push you to even mention yourself and be in the graphic. He's in the picture, but I didn't mention him in the text of the email. So my apologies. But it is 100% true. The work that, oh, I can't show you the sign up form because I already signed up for it, because that was the first thing I did. I was so excited about the event. Was I signed up because I wanted to make sure that I got all the emails so that I would be right there, on day one, know exactly what to do and where to go, and all of those things. But it's a very simple sign up. It's just your name and your email address. And do you want to share a little bit about there's a free ticket and there are upgrade options. And sometimes people get that a little bit confused because there is an option to upgrade, but that doesn't take away from the free. So how is the free part of the event going to work?
Yeah, it's super disappointing when first, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And my focus is much more on building a opportunity to elevate other voices from within our community and to create a place where other designers can get paid well for their expertise and their contribution. So I'm super proud to say that, like, I think that we're probably paid better than any knitting event in the industry, period. Full
Mhm.
stop. Like, so we've worked really hard to make that happen. And
And the
and the way that
beautiful
we
thing
do that,
from the speaker side is there's no travel. I don't have to leave my home. I created a presentation for the event that is pre-recorded so that there's no tech issues, short of maybe, some streaming glitches, but I think you have that kind of worked out. But for the replays, I think you get access to the original pre-recorded presentation. So there's no stress on me as a speaker to present live in front of an audience. There's opportunities for us to pop in and join different, events where we have the opportunity to interact live, but teaching live, even virtually teaching live, is challenging. And so from the speaker side, it's a beautiful thing. And that's, how I do my summits as well, where at any hour of the day that works for my life, whether, my kids are at camp or school, or, if a speaker has young children, they can be, with a babysitter for an hour to just sit down, record, edit, and share the presentation. So it takes a lot of stress off the presenter side as well. Plus, as you said, the pay is very generous. We'll say that.
yeah, we don't just do an affiliate thing where you only get to paid off of what you sort of sell yourself. In fact, we tell you specifically, like, don't sell. Like, we'll do all the selling for you. And I love the format because it's so flexible and the teacher only has to commit. It still takes time to put together a presentation and to edit those and stuff together, but it's way different than, teaching a 8-hour class at a knitting event. And even then, you're still probably not going to get paid close to what we do for this. So again, like, I'm super happy that we have been able to sort of figure out some of the um, financials in a way that we can make that possible.
Mhm.
And I can't, we're constantly working on ways to do even better. So, but the way that we do that is through our upgrades. So, like Jessica said, the event is entirely free to watch when it's live, and then you have 48 hours to watch the replays after that. So, it's a pretty good window of time to be able to consume everything. And if you're only interested in one or two sessions for the day, then you've got plenty of time to to go in and watch those 20 or 30 minutes for each one. And then we have an optional upgrade. So, and yeah, it's like I see comments on our ads all the time where they're like, oh, it's not free. You know, they're asking us to buy something. And I'm like, you know, like we're giving you the opportunity to get extended access to the recordings. You know, it's not a requirement. And I mean, probably like 10% of the audience that registers, you know, actually upgrades. And that's fine. I think that it's great that the people that have means can sort of make this available to everybody. But you know, we used the money from those things to help promote the event and to pay all of our speakers as well. So, you know, it's not somehow that we're trying to be greedy. Like we want to make sure that everybody gets compensated for their involvement. So, and we think that it's a super reasonable offer. You know, we're not asking, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this. Like, you know, it depends on when you purchase, but what you get in return is by far more valuable. And it's not sort of one of these like inflated value things where we're just like, well, this is worth $400 because we think that it is. You know, if you were to go and pay to learn from these people from even a 30-minute class, like you would pay, you know, probably $15-20. There's 27 sessions included in this event. Like there's a lot of stuff that, you know, that we include, but we also, most of our speakers have also included very generous bonuses. There's like something like 30 patterns that you get from all of these amazing designers. Wooly herself, it includes an ebook that has 10 patterns. You can choose one of her ebooks that includes 10 patterns. The patterns individually would cost you almost $100 just on their own.
Yeah.
That's just the one bonus that she includes. Jessica has a class that she's included that's about fixing mistakes, which is really great from her library. I've included a bunch of my, you know, stuff from my own. We've included some patterns from our library. I've done a few different workshops on knitting projects without a pattern, and I've included those. I don't even sell those publicly, so it's literally the only way that you can get them. So altogether, it's something like almost $1,800 worth of stuff if you bought it all individually.
Yeah.
And you get it for drastically less than that.
Yeah. An incredible price. So to clarify, for the free access, you sign up just your name and your email address, and that is all you have to do to get free access. You'll get emails from Johnny throughout, you know, a welcome email, and then throughout the event, you'll get emails to know what's going on each day. And so the presentations that are available on Thursday are available all of Thursday and all of Friday. And it doesn't matter what time zone you're in, it's 48 hours of time to watch the presentation. So you get 2 full days no
And
matter
technically,
where in the
it's
world you
available
are.
it's technically Thursday's stuff will be available through the presentations on Saturday. That would
Okay.
be a full 48 hours.
Okay, so that's even better than what I'm saying, right? And then it's a rolling time. So then the presentations from Friday are available through Sunday, right? Yes, and then so
Yeah,
on.
so then the last presentations basically the whole event kind of ends officially on Tuesday. It's like the
Right.
last time that you can sort of watch anything from it.
Right, so this stuff from Sunday will be available through Tuesday. So
Yeah.
that's a nice chunk of time to watch the presentations. One of the things that I love that you do as part of your events, though, is that you bring everyone together to watch in community. You stream it live as though it was like a TV show. So when you turn it on and you watch it, and it's there to watch, and there's a chat going on so you can ask questions. Some of the speakers I try to pop in when my presentation will be on, which is on Saturday. My beautiful brioche, I'm teaching how to knit brioche using 2 colors is the secret. That's what makes it easy. Um, and so I'll be there to answer questions. I think I'll be in the car on the way to medieval times with the kids, but not driving, so that's okay. But, you know, chiming in and trying to answer your questions as you're watching the presentation, and being able to be in community watching the same thing at the same time and being able to ask questions is different than some other summits that, like, that's not how I run my summit, and other hosts that I know also don't do it that way. So that's a really unique and different thing, and that's in
It's a
addition
lot
to
more
being
stressful.
yes.
So because things can and do go wrong when we do it live, but we also want to try and do something that stands out a little bit. And I happen to have, a YouTube channel that's a little bit on the larger side. So I thought that was a good place to sort of host things to post it all. So the chat is an amazing experience during the event because so many people are sort of like asking questions, but also sharing resources and answers. And one thing that we started doing on the last event is that we actually have somebody watching the chat and grabbing all of those. So you don't have to sort of write them down. We have an event guide that we update throughout the day. It's like, okay, in this session, people were talking about these resources. Or if somebody mentioned something in their presentation, then we provide links to those as well. So if there's a particular pattern that gets talked about, or someone's talking about a kind of yarn, then we put all of that together into the event guide. So you can just go to one Google Doc and everything's in one place, and it's really easy to sort of find all the stuff.
One question that has come up in my conversations with my audience about the event, people were wondering, are there projects that people are making during the event? Should they come prepared with any specific yarn or needles or tools? Or is it more educational overview, work on the thing later? So what is your experience with what the presentations are from speakers?
Yeah. So 20-25 minutes is not really long enough to teach a technique to the level where you could finish something. And we're not working on a specific thing over the course of the 4 days that you would then be working on. That may be something that we incorporate in the future, where it's sort of like you get a project to work on over the 4 days, and it's sort of something that everybody's working on at the same time together. But we haven't done that yet. But we
Adding another
do have,
layer, another layer of complexity and challenge
yeah,
on
yeah,
all
yeah.
for everyone.
Well, we do have a community space, that is available for people to be able to engage in between the days of the event. And one thing that we do have is a daily challenge. So we try to come up with something that relates to the topics of the day. And then we say, okay, go do this thing. So in the colorwork events that we've done in the past, that's been like, okay, today we talked about these colorwork techniques. Find a technique, or find a stitch pattern that uses one, knit a swatch, post a photo into the community. And then everybody that posts into the community, the next morning we have a little giveaway. We just pick someone at random who had posted a photo. And it's a great way to get people to actually take what they're learning and apply the skills. So we're looking for, we'll have little challenges like that every single day. And then we've got some really great prizes from some of our sponsors, like Lemonwood Fiber Tools, who makes the mini minder, Crafties, which has these really cool like craft pillows, and Dave and Charles is the publisher who a few of our speakers have designed or have made books with. So they're going to be donating some books as well. So we've got a lot of cool prizes, and we also have a daily quiz. That's a live quiz. So it's like a game show. So at the end of the day, we quiz everybody on the topics that we discussed during the day, and you can actually answer in real time. And the person who wins the quiz wins a prize. So, but maybe even the top 3 will win a prize. I think we have enough prizes to do that. So yeah, I'm super excited about all of that.
Yeah, for my presentation on brioche, so the project that I'm going to be teaching, and I don't think I have it here. I thought I did, but I don't. I have one in progress. It's an ear warmer. So as part of, so that's just the first few rows of it. I have a finished one somewhere in my office, but not handy. So there is a link where you'll be able to sign up to my email list. You'll get the pattern, which has all of the supplies and all of the tools and all of the information, the full written instructions. I think it's also charted if you are a chart person. So that's all there for you to work on while you watch other presentations. But if it's your first time knitting brioche, I recommend a nice quiet room where you're not doing other things at the same time, just to get the hang of it. And so that you'll sign up. Johnny will share that link during the event, and then you can actually get the pattern for the ear warmer as a free gift from me. And that's separate from the Learn to Fix Your Mistakes class. That is part of the bonus when you upgrade. And I just wanted to ask one more question, because this comes up a lot in my.
I want to just to add on to that
Oh,
comment.
yeah,
So that's
go
a
ahead.
great, what you brought up is that even the stuff you're going to learn is super valuable, but every single one of our speakers has also included some cool freebie. So a pattern or a video or some other extended learning opportunity, and that's all for free. So just by signing up for the event, you're going to get an extra probably 10 patterns or so from all of the speakers included. So I thank you for bringing that up. And those links will all be in that show guide. So it's really easy for you to find the speaker that you want, click their link to go get their freebie, and you can see more details about the bonus that's in the Super Pass if you want as well.
Yes. So on that note, so two things I want to share about that, just from my knowledge of things, is that the reason that you have to sign up for email lists from the speakers to get the things is because we are not legally allowed to just send you an email without you opting into our list. There are laws that prevent us from just sending emails out to people as businesses. So that's why you have to do that. A little tip: if you use Gmail, you can, let's say your email is knitter@gmail.com. So here's a little tech tip for you. I think it's if you add a plus sign and
Mhm.
then another word like fearless, right? So if your email is knitter@gmail.com, you can do knitter and then the plus sign fearless@gmail.com. That email will still come to you, but you can filter those into a folder so that you can find them again in the future. They don't maybe bombard your main inbox. You can kind of do filter things, or you'll know that this is someone that you met through the summit. I don't know that that works with other email systems, but for if you are a Gmail user, then that is something that you can do, and that maybe helps to keep your main inbox clean. If you don't want to hear from us, you just want our gift, unsubscribe. Don't mark it as spam. It hurts all of us when you do that, but you can unsubscribe. You don't have to stay, but we hope that you do, because we have more fun things to share: events, patterns, workshops, all kinds of fun things that we, and all of us are only sharing things that we think that you'll be interested in as a knitter. So yeah, those were my two tips on the summit thing. So Johnny can't send out all of our content because it doesn't belong to him, just the presentation does, and that's why there'll be links for you to sign up, but it should all be like just a name and an email address for the most part to get access to those gifts from us for free.
That's
Oh,
great.
and yeah, and the question I was going to ask you, you mentioned a community for people to interact in between the days of the event. Where is that community hosted?
We are testing out a new platform. So we'll send out links to everybody that's registered probably on Wednesday to, where they can log in and start interacting with each other. So it's not on Facebook. It's a separate platform. So for people that are sort of like anti-meta and stuff like that, we figured that it's just also there's just better tools to foster community and interaction between people. So we found one that we kind of like and are experimenting with that really does some cool things to encourage connection between people. And that's really sort of one of our bigger goals for this entire event, is to bring knitters together and provide a place where we can connect over the thing that we all love, because there's so much divisiveness in the world today, and we don't want to be a part of that. We want to focus on the stuffs that we have in common, and not the things that make us different.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is tends to be a question that comes up with my events because my community is on Facebook, and so
Mm.
people say, well, how can I interact if I'm not on Facebook? And I knew that yours was not, I just wasn't sure where. So you'll get all of that information from Johnny,
And
but
that's an optional, like that's sort of like if you just want to have a bonus experience, it's not required to log in or have an account in order to get the access to the videos and stuff. That's all hosted somewhere else. So
right.
we'll have links to all that stuff. But if you want to have that sort of like next level of interaction and experience, then the community is the place for
Right. So to interact with the summit on the main event as it's going on is a website link that you'll get
that.
when
Mhm.
the summit goes live. You don't have to log into anything. It will be streaming live on a web page, and all you need to do is just click that link that will be in your email on Thursday morning. You don't need the link before because there's nothing to watch before. So don't stress, just check your email on Thursday morning and Johnny will send you all of the details about what's happening each day. And the link will be right there in your inbox, and you just click on it. It'll be like turning on the TV to watch a bunch of shows all about your favorite thing. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we sign off for today?
Just, we have amazing customer support. So if there's something going wrong, you can always email us at hello@yarnist.co, and we do our best to reply as quickly as possible. We are in Estonia, so if you're messaging in the nighttime for us, then there might be a little bit of a delay, but during the event for sure, we have people that are going to be there supporting, and just know that we're there to help you out for whatever it is. But don't message us on the socials. We don't really check that stuff. Email is the best way to get an answer quickly.
We were trying to talk about time zones before. So I'm in New York and I was planning to do something in the evening. And Johnny's like, well, that's like 3 a.m. I won't be awake then. So if you email them in the evening in the US, you may get an email response from them before you even wake up.
Oh,
Is a good
that's
way
for
to think
sure.
about
Yeah. First thing that we do when we wake up is open up our computers and start answering questions. I'm incredibly excited about this event. This is something that we have been working on. This is an idea that I've had for over a decade. So I have been dreaming about putting on an event like this for a really long time. I started working on this event concept like more than 3 years ago. And I had it written down in a notebook and I had circled it and I was like, this is the thing. But I wasn't ready to put it on 3 years ago. So I took a year and I did nothing. And
it.
then and then I signed up for a program to learn how to do it, a program that both Jessica and I ended up being a part of. And then I took a year and did nothing with that information. And luckily, I had an opportunity to be a part of Jessica's event and Hortense's event and get to learn a little bit from the backside of things. And then we started testing out some of these ideas about a year ago with some smaller events because we knew we were working towards this event. So this is really the thing that we have been like preparing for quite a long time. So it's it's like giving birth to. I assume it's like giving birth to a baby. I haven't never done that.
No.
Uh, I have 7 kids, but I didn't do that part. And but it's so exciting to see it come into the world, and hope that everybody's going to love it as much as you do. So we put a ton of work into creating the best event that we possibly can, and we know it's not going to go perfect, but we're going to do the best that we can to make it an amazing experience for everybody involved. And this is just the beginning. Like, we have way more of these events planned that are going to be coming, starting. I think we have one planned for the middle of October. So, we got a whole bunch of stuff coming.
Sign me up. From the speaker perspective, I'm always happy to participate in anything that you run and you host, because I know that you put your all into it, and that you treat your speakers well, and that you treat your audience well. That's what keeps them coming back, is that they know that you're going to put on something wonderful, something valuable, something actionable. It's not fluff. It's real skills, real lessons, real life experiences from yourself, and now from fellow knitting instructors, designers, people in the yarn world. So I am really looking forward to it as a speaker. I'll share my affiliate link so that you can join me at the event. I'll get a small thank you from Johnny, a bigger thank you than I would get from anyone else, but a small thank you from Johnny if you sign up and upgrade through my link. But I'll share that with you, and I hope
Well,
to
and
see you
people
there.
should know if they're going to upgrade through your affiliate link, the vast majority of that money goes directly to Jessica. So it really is supporting her, and it also mostly goes to the other speakers. So I don't really make much money on direct sales from our speakers. We try to give as much of that as possible to the speakers.
Thank you for creating this beautiful Fearless Knitter Summit. I am so excited. I hope that you will all join us on Thursday, and we will see you there. Take care, friends.
All right. Keep knitting fearlessly, everybody.
Yes.